What is going on, guys? Welcome. Happy Monday night. I don't know about all of you. I'm excited for some Monday night football. What do we need? What are the miracles we need on Monday night football? What is going on, guys? I hope we had a good week 15. Lawson, good to see you. Notification gang on YouTube. What's going on, my guys? Josh Carter, good to see you. I'm doing fantastic, man. Monday night. I got a shot at the finals in a few leagues. Matt says he lost. I know Cam Akers really sold me as well. Cam Akers was probably the big bust of the week for me. But I feel like the process was right. It was right with Cam Akers. I mean, we can't argue against the process for Cam Akers. Hit that like button, guys, if you're watching live on YouTube. Really do appreciate that. What's good? The guy, 5111, 20 points for Steelers defense. I think there's a lot of people who need Steelers defense tonight. Had a decent game, but you have to do super well. Yeah, you got to have the cards fall perfectly for you to get to the championship of your fantasy football league. This was an extremely challenging year, guys, for fantasy football. So don't get me wrong. This was probably the most challenging fantasy football season I can remember in recent memory. Luke Morgan, how's it going, guys? Did we make it to the championship? What are the miracles that we need tonight? It's going to be an absolutely ridiculous Monday night game because the Cincinnati Bengals are trotting out something named Ryan Finley, who is not very good at the game of football. Ebron needs to get less than 8 with half PPR. It's definitely possible. Ryan Butts wants my DraftKings lineup tonight. We're going to talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. First year playing fantasy and you lost in the first round. Yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah, fantasy basketball is up next. Oh, no, you had Montgomery, Pollard, and Tannehill on your bench. That's never a good thing. Montgomery is a fantasy football league winner. Up 8, your opponent has Boswell. That's not going to be a comfortable game for you. Do you think Steelers could get 10 points? I definitely do, guys. Ryan Finley is not a good quarterback, so the Steelers can score any amount of points tonight. I'm in the championship. I got 180 points this week. Zach, that is what I'm talking about, man. And I'm looking forward to the streams coming up this week to help you win that championship. Steelers or Indy defense? Who do you like better down the stretch? Just hit you with a like. Thanks, man. Yeah, hit that like button if you're watching live on YouTube. Takes you 2 seconds. Helps us out a ton, so definitely hit that like button if you're watching live on YouTube. You played Akers, but you still won. That is good, Gavin, because Akers is probably going to bounce back. Guys, Cam Akers still played over 90% of the snaps and saw over 90% of the workload for the Rams. The Rams were just trailing most of the game, which played awfully for Cam Akers, and so that was the big issue. It really wasn't the workload or the volume. I have a chance at a championship. I am still in the playoffs and actually in a DraftKings league, but it's going to be tight. I need Big Ben to have a big night tonight to make it in my league. Hunt was a disappointment in flex. Yeah, Kareem Hunt definitely disappointed this week. Up 14, you got Pittsburgh D and Ebron. Yeah, I think you're going to win that one. Deontay and Big Ben are going to do pretty well tonight, I think. Big Ben can probably cover 26 points by himself. You messed up on a Robbie Anderson over. I did not have the Robbie Anderson over. Aaron Jones or Montgomery? I think you got to go Montgomery at this point. It's tough to go away from him. Myles Gaskin or J.K. Dobbins? Won by 2 points because my opponent had Gallman and Dillon. That's crazy. I would go J.K. Dobbins over Myles Gaskin. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit that like button. It's Monday night. We got a big, big game tonight, and the Steelers are going to completely blow out. They're going to completely blow out this Bengals team, guys. Listen to this. Ryan Finley, he's not very good at football. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Bengals tonight. In his 6 appearances in the last 2 years, he's been in 6 games. He hasn't played fully in 6 games, but he's appeared in 6 games. In those games, he has twice as many interceptions as he has touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions to 2 touchdowns, under a 55% completion percentage. This is going to be an ugly night for Ryan Finley, guys. This is going to be an absolute dominant performance by the Steelers defense. The Steelers are 14-point favorites in this game. I think they're going to cover that spread. I don't think you can risk money against the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight. If you're going to wager any money on this game, make sure you're wagering money on the Pittsburgh Steelers and nothing to do with the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Ryan Finley, again, more interceptions than touchdowns, twice as many interceptions as touchdowns for Ryan Finley dating back to last season in his 6 appearances. He's up against a pretty good Steelers defense. Mikey Rocks, how's it going, my man? I'm up 30. My opponent has Deontay. Alessandro, you should be good, but I do think Deontay Johnson could have a big bounce-back week. Ravi, Ebron is by no means a lock. No tight ends are, except for Travis Kelce, who Travis Kelce is like 6 yards off of leading the league in receiving yards right now. Guys, the Steelers defense is not something you want to be up against tonight. I think the Steelers defense is going to bail out a lot of fantasy teams. Ryan Finley, more interceptions than passing touchdowns, twice as many over the last 2 years in his 6 appearances. Oh, no, Will Sully lost by 4. Let's get him next year. Yeah, the best part about fantasy football, guys, is that there is always next year. That's the best part. It's one of my favorite parts about fantasy football. So there is always next year. If you didn't quite make the cut this season, there is always next year. And let's talk a little bit about my DraftKings lineup for tonight. Again, I think that the Steelers defense is going to have a field day against Ryan Finley. I think you have to have at least one Bengals player in your lineup, but I don't think you need to have 2. I think minimum 1. I think the minimum for me, I'm going with T. Higgins in my lineup on the Bengals side of the ball. T. Higgins, guys, does not have a single game this season with fewer than 5 targets. I mean, he's been extremely consistent, extremely reliable. He's a pretty impressive rookie. I think he's also clearly established a connection with Joe Burrow for the long term. I'm excited to see what he can do. So in my captain spot, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense tonight. In the captain spot, they're pretty expensive at $10,800, but I like pivoting off of Big Ben. I'm still going to have Big Ben in my lineup, but I'm going with the Steelers defense in the captain spot. I'm stacking Big Ben with Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to toss in James Washington as well because he's one of the cheaper players to fit in there. And then you're going to have to pay way, way down with your last spot, but look no further than Travion Williams, who's probably going to lead the Bengals backfield in touches tonight. So he's going to be my last player in this lineup. So here it is, the DraftKings lineup. I'm going with Big Ben, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going Steelers defense in the captain slot, which is a risky but pretty good move if you're playing in a tournament to take risks. And then on the Bengals side of the ball, I went with T. Higgins and Travion Williams. The player prop, there is one player prop identified by Walter, our artificially intelligent algorithm, that's had 68% accuracy identifying exploitable player prop picks since the start of last year, over 200 picks. And yes, you can get access to that in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. There are no ties in fantasy. I think that the tie break usually goes to the person who scored more points in the regular season, though. I don't think Benny Snell is very trustworthy. Guys, Big Ben has thrown the most passing attempts in the NFL this season. The most passing attempts, Ben Roethlisberger. I do think that you can't trust Benny Snell very much, though James Conner did play his lowest snap percentage of the season last week, and he's been extremely inefficient on the ground and through the air, so it's not going to be surprising if we see Benny Snell start to take away more and more work from him. Yeah, exactly, Matt. That's the whole idea. Putting the Steelers in the captain slot is definitely risky. If you don't put the Steelers in your captain slot, I think you got to put Big Ben there. He threw for 313 yards and 4 touchdowns last time he played the Bengals back in Week 10. The player prop is not free tonight. There's no free prop pick, though we dominated with the free prop pick this week again on the stream, moving over 85% accuracy, giving away free prop picks this season. Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns was absolute money this week. They were giving you positive odds on that, but you can get access to the prop pick in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. We do have one. Biggest surprise of Week 15, I mean, it had to be. The biggest surprise of Week 15 had to be the Jets beating the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, you got to be kidding me, especially with the Cam Akers thing was such a bust as well. I had him in a lot of DFS lineups, and I was all in on Cam Akers in fantasy, and I just was shocked to see the Los Angeles Rams, whose defense had done so well, struggle to stop the New York Jets. I was very surprised that the Rams could not stop an offense that was feeding the ball to Frank Gore. I need Chase to get less than 37. Yes, you're definitely going to win that one. Next week, start Colts defense versus Steelers defense. Probably the Steelers defense. Down 15, I have Giovanni and Juju. What do you think? Yeah, I think Juju's going to do very well tonight, guys. Juju Smith-Schuster is leading the NFL in slot routes per game. He leads the NFL in the number of snaps from the slot, the most valuable place to be running routes in the NFL for fantasy football purposes. A target from in the slot is about 1.5 times as valuable as targets anywhere else on the field. Juju has played the most slots, ran the most routes in the slot, And Tyler Boyd, by the way, is number 2. So we're seeing the 2 top slot wide receivers in this game tonight. Juju, though, he's really done the dirty work for the Steelers offense. He's just taking those really dangerous balls over the middle, and he's not getting very many yards after the catch. He has the 9th most catches in the NFL, but the 32nd most yards. I mean, think about that. Juju has been catching the ball a lot. He's really playing an important role for this offense. He's the most reliable target for Big Ben, but he's really not getting those valuable deep targets. So he's seen the 9th most catches, but the 32nd most yards in the NFL. Tyler Boyd, on the other hand, he has fewer catches, but significantly more receiving yards than Juju Smith-Schuster. You can't be benching Lamar ever, guys. We've learned this over the last couple of weeks. Lamar Jackson is going to be a fantasy football league winner, guys. And if you're watching live on YouTube, hit that like button. It really does help us out a ton. Let's get to 30 likes. Hit that like button. If you're watching live on TikTok and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, we're live on YouTube and TikTok right now, so definitely hit that like button. I need the Steelers D and Snell to get 50. Yeah, Maxwell, that is not happening. How do you think Cook will do against the Saints? I think Dalvin Cook is going to do well, even against a very good Saints run defense. Do you think Tyler Boyd will drop 16.6? I doubt it. And the reason I doubt it is because Ryan Finley is not a good quarterback. I think that Ryan Finley is going to be a tough guy to be rooting for tonight, guys. Ryan Finley is going to look really bad, and it's not going to surprise me if he doesn't even finish the game. Steelers defense can get you pretty much any amount of points you need tonight. There's a chance that the Steelers defense goes over 20 points. It's why I'm putting them in my captain slot on DraftKings. I think if you don't have them in your captain slot on DraftKings or FanDuel tonight, you got to have them in your lineup because Ryan Finley has more interceptions than touchdowns, twice as many as interceptions as touchdowns in his 6 games that he's appeared in his NFL career over the last 2 years. He has under a 55% completion percentage. He is not very good. Hey, Walter, do you think the Steelers can get 7? Yes. My name's actually Sam, by the way. I built an artificially intelligent algorithm that's named Walter. You can get access to his projections, his artificially intelligent machine learning projections, more accurate than ESPN and Yahoo and any other projections you're using. You got the Steelers for Survivor this week. Alexi, I like that because the Steelers are going to absolutely destroy the Bengals tonight. They're 14-point favorites, and I like the 14-point spread. I don't think you can risk any money against the Steelers tonight. If you are risking even $1 tonight on anything, it's got to be on the Steelers side of the ball. Do not risk money on the Bengals side of the ball because the Ryan Finley situation at quarterback is going to go very poorly for the Cincinnati Bengals. Nice to know your name, Sam. Yeah, my name is Sam. I built an app called WalterPicks. It is not currently on Android. We will be on Android by the start of next season. Pollard saved my season, but now I need Steelers D and Ebron to get 12.5. Yeah, that's going to happen. And Steelers defense is probably going to do that on their own. But yeah, the Tony Pollard late news that Ezekiel Elliott was out. And I told everyone, you got to start Tony Pollard. Solid running back 2 with running back 1 upside. And it really has looked like Tony Pollard has more juice than Ezekiel Elliott over the last few weeks. I think they did the right thing sitting Ezekiel Elliott. Get your guy fully healthy. But what a horrible contract that they gave Zeke. How much is WalterPicks? Good question, man. You could start a completely free 3-day trial to get a good feel for exactly what the premium subscription is going to give you. And then it's $5 a month if you go for the annual subscription, which I highly recommend. And almost every single one of our subscribers has made more with the subscription than they paid. I mean, $5 a month, really not a lot. And if you just locked in Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns, you probably already paid for your premium subscription for a year. I'm down by 2. I have Steelers D. He has Claypool. Who wins? I bet you end up winning that. I won't be surprised at all if the Steelers defense bails out an enormous amount of fantasy lineups tonight, guys. Watson or Brady next week? I think you go with Brady. Brady just missed the 3-touchdown mark by a yard several times, which is brutal. I had Brady over 3 touchdowns on one prop, but he did go over 350 passing yards. Would you risk Julio next week? I'm in the finals. Yeah, if he plays, I think you can risk Julio next week. Breezy, How would a defense get that much? Yeah, that's not going to happen, man. Herbert or Tannehill next week? I think you can trust Tannehill, guys. Tannehill's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL this season. And if you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit that like button. Really do appreciate it. It takes you 2 seconds. Hit that like button. Let's get to 30 likes. If you're watching live on TikTok and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, not sure what you're waiting for, come over. We're live on YouTube as well. Should I start Lockett, Beasley, or Ayuk next week? I would lean towards Ayuk. There has not been a more consistent wide receiver in the NFL than Brandon Ayuk over the last month, guys. He's gotten over 70 yards for 4 consecutive weeks. And I see people coming on asking for the free player prop pick tonight because we've had over 85% accuracy giving away free player prop picks this season on these live streams. On Sunday, we dominated Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That was easy money on Sunday. And if you want the player prop tonight, you got to go into the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. You got to start your 3-day free trial, and you will get access to the prop. Then bet on the prop, and it'll probably pay for your year-long subscription. Is it okay to play Baker versus the Jets over Russ versus the Rams next week? Yeah. Guys, Russell Wilson, his floor is a lot lower than we would have liked. You can definitely bench him. Will Juju get over 18 non-PPR? Almost definitely not. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk is fire, guys. He's one of the best rookies in this class. I'm up 25.2, and he is Juju. In a PPR league, you're probably safe, but it's not out of the question. Juju Smith-Schuster has ran the most routes in the slot of any player this season. Oh, the number 2, by the way, is Tyler Boyd, who we'll also get to see tonight. Juju has the 9th most catches with the 32nd most receiving yards. He's also top 10 in red zone targets. He's been the most reliable target for Big Ben. I do think Juju Smith-Schuster can do very well tonight. He's coming off a season-high 100% snap share, and with the Steelers struggling with drops, it has been Juju Smith-Schuster that has played more and more and more snaps. So I do think you can trust Juju tonight to do pretty well. How many leagues do you play on, Sam? I'm playing in way, way too many fantasy leagues. I'm in 8 fantasy leagues. 6 of those were high-stakes fantasy leagues. And 2 of those high-stakes fantasy leagues I am still alive in, though I need a big game from Big Ben to stay alive in one of them. The other I have advanced, but the playoffs, actually the finals, don't happen till week 17. Is Aaron Jones back? Yeah, I do think Aaron Jones is back. Thoughts on Hurts next week? Can he repeat? Yeah, guys, Jalen Hurts has done something no other quarterback has ever done in his first 2 starts. He's rushing and passing combined has been extremely, extremely impressive. Yeah, and when I say high-stakes fantasy leagues, the leagues I'm in, over $1,000 entry fee. These leagues are no joke. Antonio Brown, by the way, when the Adam Schefter tweet came out, just to give you a sense of what these leagues are like, when Adam Schefter tweeted that Antonio Brown had interest from teams, literally 5 seconds later, he was added in every single one of my leagues. Jones is back, starting him every week. Yeah, you got to trust Jones. Brady or Rodgers this week. You can never bench Rodgers, guys. Rodgers has been too hot to bench him. He's really the only player in the conversation for MVP alongside Patrick Mahomes. I'm down by 4, and he's Ebron, and I have Steelers defense. Yeah, you're definitely going to win that one. I think that the Steelers defense is going to do very, very well tonight against Ryan Finley and the Cincinnati Bengals. And guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, you got to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't liked yet. It really does help us out a lot. Updates on Gibson or Gaskin. Yeah, I thought Antonio Gibson had a chance to suit up this week. I won't be surprised to see him out there next week with that team still fighting for a playoff spot. Myles Gaskin also feels like he's starting to come closer and closer to returning, though. You got to be impressed with what Ahmed did for the Dolphins this week, over 120 yards. Why 2 thumbs down, Ryan? I probably led people towards starting Cam Akers and losing their fantasy championships. That probably has something to do with it. Eckler. Yeah, Austin Eckler is going to bounce back, guys. He just needs to get in the end zone and see a few more red zone touches. Hurts or Wilson next week? I would go Jalen Hurts over Russell Wilson. Throw a like and subscribe. Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. Definitely throw a like on the YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't yet. How likely do you think Deontay will get 17 points? I'd put that about 35% probability. And if you need help with your start-sit decisions or you want accurate projections, just go check the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. Completely free to download, completely free to get that start-sit projection, and it will give you a pretty accurate lock player props. Yeah, we do have an absolute lock of a player prop tonight. You can get access to it. Start your 3-day free trial in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. We have no free player props tonight, though we did absolutely dominate with our free Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns this Sunday. If you missed out that one, you got to join us on our Sunday streams. It's our absolute fire. We've had 85% accuracy, giving away free prop picks on Sundays. Tonyan or Font next week. I would lean Noah Font. With the workload he saw, you can't be benching him. Alexi, you were sub number 14 and followed early on TikTok. You've helped me through Survivor and Fantasy. Alexi, I'm glad I could help, man. You think Ebron and Deontay Johnson can get 30-plus full PPR? Yeah, I do. Guys, Big Ben threw for 330 yards the last time that he was up against this defense, and he threw for 4 touchdowns. That's great news for Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Juju, Eric Ebron, James Washington even. And I'm super, super intrigued to see how the wide receiver snaps and wide receiver targets shape out tonight, because we saw Deontay Johnson bench last week for persistent drop issues, even though I think it's pretty clear Deontay Johnson is the most talented receiver on this team. He's had 7+ targets still in 6 straight games. He leads the team in receiving, and I think he's going to bounce back in a big way tonight. But it'll be really interesting to see if he continues to see some less and less snaps, because James Washington played a season-high 85% of the snaps in the last game after the Deontay Johnson benching, and Big Ben has publicly stated how much he trusts James Washington. So I'm super intrigued to see what his involvement in the offense will be tonight. James Washington has scored touchdowns in 3 consecutive games, and he is one of the most trusted wide receivers for Big Ben. So I do think that it'll be interesting to see. I think at least 2 out of the 4 receivers, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Chase Claypool, at least 2 out of those 4 receivers are going to outperform expectations tonight. No QB has attempted more passes this season than Ben Roethlisberger. He's coming off arguably his worst game of the season, but I think he's going to bounce back big time against the Bengals defense that he just threw. He just threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against back in Week 10. So there's a lot to like about Big Ben tonight. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit that like button. Let's get to 50 likes. Really do appreciate you hitting that like button. If you like the new logo, thanks, man. If you are watching live on TikTok, definitely go subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing out. Flex Miles Sanders or Akers next week. I still think I would go Akers over Miles Sanders. Could the Chargers slow down the Chiefs offense in Week 17? No, nobody can slow down the Chiefs offense. It's just not possible. So I would not recommend that. Good luck with Ben and Steelers passing game tonight. I will have some, but not more than 10%. They will likely run the ball. It's going to be out of style tonight. The DFS dad. I like that name, man. Yeah, you never know. As a 14-point favorite, there's definitely a chance that they go really, really run heavy. That could lean well for James Conner and Benny Snell, though they are an extremely pass-heavy team. The Bengals haven't been very good on either side, stopping the run or stopping the pass this season. And Ryan Finley is not good. He's not good. He's at under a 55% completion percentage. He has twice as many interceptions as he does touchdowns over the last 2 years. So the DFS dad, it's not going to be that surprising to see the Steelers dominate tonight. But I think even in a game where they're leading by 2+ touchdowns in the first half, I think they're still going to throw a decent amount. They've been one of the most pass-heavy teams in neutral game scripts and in game scripts where they're already winning. Do I start AJ next week with Jerry guarding him? Yeah, you always start AJ Brown. Best DFS picks. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers defense more than any other player tonight. I think you can really trust the Steelers defense against Ryan Finley. So my favorite DFS option is the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Love you, Sam. You got me to the finals, dude. Dean, that's what I'm talking about, man. Glad I could help. How likely do you think it is Deontay gets 17? Again, I think it's around 35% chance. Montgomery, no question. Yeah, you do. Got to go with David Montgomery 100%. I'm new to sports betting. Can you explain a little bit more player prop picks and how they work? Yeah, so player props are actually relatively new in the betting universe. So this is something worth explaining. So player props are on sports books where you can bet on spreads and the spreads of games and things. I'm assuming you know how that works. It's basically betting on teams and the outcomes of games. They are now offering being able to bet on specific player stats. And that's what a player prop is. You get to bet on a player to go over 50 rushing yards or over 50 receiving yards or over 1 touchdown, under 1 touchdown. This is what a player prop is. And this is because it's relatively new and because such low amounts of money for the sportsbook perspective, there's such a low percentage of money for them risked on these player props that they don't set the lines very accurately. And this is why I was able to, over the last 3 years, build an artificially intelligent algorithm that more accurately predicts player performance than the sports books. And so we've had over 200 player props identified as exploitable using artificial intelligence, and 68% of them have been correct. And we have one going tonight. I'm very confident in the one going tonight. And so that's what a player prop is. That's how we've been able to exploit player props because they're relatively new. The sportsbooks aren't having that much money wagered on them that they just aren't paying attention enough in some of these situations. That's why we were able to bet on Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns this week. They were giving us positive odds. $100 bet won you $125 on Lamar Jackson over 1.5 passing touchdowns against the worst secondary in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was absolute money. He ended up throwing 3 TDs. I think he passed 2 passing touchdowns in the first half, if I remember correctly, too. So that one was absolute cash. And if you want free player prop picks each week, you got to come on our streams every single Sunday. We're also giving away prop picks for free in the WalterPicks app if you click on that player prop tool. I got the over for the first quarter. You think it'll hit 7.5 over under first quarter? Yeah, I bet it's going over 7.5 in the first quarter. Do I trade Ayuk for McLaren now that Kittle will be coming back? I think they're pretty comparable options right now, Alexi. I do like Ayuk, I think, a little bit more than McLaren, though. For the rest of the season, at least. I don't know about long-term. McLaren's an absolute stud. Corey Davis, DJ Moore, Cole Beasley rest of the season. I think it's got to be Corey Davis. And people don't like Corey Davis. They don't think that most people don't realize how big of a breakout season Corey Davis is having, guys. There's not very many wide receivers. I can name 2 wide receivers with more receiving yards than Corey Davis over the last month. The only 2 are Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. End of list. That is how good Corey Davis has been this season. He only has 2 games under 10 fantasy points. And so, yeah, I do like Corey Davis as an extremely safe fantasy option. Can you start making videos on TikTok about each player prop you did over the last week? Maxwell, really good idea. I should probably start doing that. Thanks for explaining. And thanks for getting me to the championship. I love to hear it, man. And, yeah, hopefully you can get more and more into player props as the years go on. Where do you think Aaron Jones will go in the offseason? Very interested to see, because being a running back and being a free agent do not go well together. They're some of the least valuable assets in fantasy. I mean, in real football. I'm Frank Gore, LOL. Good to see you, Frank Gore. You got your first win this week. I have Wilson, Carson, and Metcalf. Should I be worried about the championship? Nope. I don't think you should worry. I think that you got to trust all 3 of those guys. And even against a good defense, they can do well. Connor is out. Is this true? I'm not seeing it on my Twitter feed as of now. Can anyone confirm James Conner is officially out? Juju or Dobbins? I would go Juju. Do I put Beasley or Lockett over McLaren, or do I keep him in? Yeah, you got to keep McLaren in. I do think he's gonna bounce back. I see people confirming that James Conner is out, but I still have not confirmed it via my Twitter. He is out. Yes, he's out. He's out. All right, guys, I trust you. We have officially confirmed that James Conner is out, though I still am going to. Yes, he's inactive for Week 15 against the Bengals. The Steelers have all 3 of Benny Snell, rookie Anthony McFarland, and H-back type Jalen Samuels active against Cincinnati, with Conner's out Week 12 and 13. Benny Snell started both games. He played 71% of the snaps and 46% of the snaps. With the Steelers as heavy favorites, you got to like Benny Snell a lot more tonight. And I got to update James Conner in the app now. But, yeah, this is actually surprising inactive, and I'm interested to see if this is a healthy scratch, or maybe they're just such big of favorites that they want to give James Conner a little bit of a rest. But James Conner, guys, he played a season-low snap percentage last week. He's been extremely inefficient in the rushing game and the receiving game this season. So I was totally out on James Conner. I actually told people James Conner was a must bench this week on our Sunday stream. So I was definitely right about that one. Hopefully nobody held on to James Conner without Benny Snell and was planning to start him in the fantasy playoffs. But I do think that Benny Snell all of a sudden is a running back 2 option this week. Stinks for people that didn't know that heading into the week. He could have helped a lot of people, but it is official. James Conner is out tonight, confirmed by several reliable sources, along with most of the people watching this stream. James Conner out, Benny Snell in. I do think Benny Snell becomes an interesting option in DFS now. You're probably going to want to stack him with the Steelers defense as 14-point favorites. I think the Steelers are going to cover the 14-point spread. I would not be risking a single dollar against on anyone to do with the Bengals tonight. I think you got to be trusting the Steelers. James Conner is dealing with a quad injury, so not a healthy scratch. But I think it is a good move by the Steelers, giving him a game off. Guys, we're 5 likes away on YouTube from 50 likes. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 50 likes. What's your Steelers defense projection? I think the Steelers defense is scoring a touchdown tonight. They're going to force at least 2 turnovers. The Ryan Finley situation for the Bengals is not going to go well. He has twice as many interceptions as he has passing touchdowns over the last 2 years in the 6 games that he's appeared in. So I think the Steelers defense is going to score a touchdown tonight. I won't be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers defense scores more touchdowns than Ryan Finley. Finley, the GOAT, he's going to destroy the Steelers. I strongly disagree, Andy. He has a below 55% completion percentage in his 6 games that he's appeared in, and he has more interceptions than touchdowns. There's very little to like about Ryan Finley, and there's a lot to like about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, so I do think that they're going to do well. How are you feeling between Juju and Deontay? I think Juju is going to outperform Deontay Johnson tonight, but I do think there's a chance, and again, fantasy football in the game of the NFL, it's all about understanding the range of outcomes for every player, and the range of outcomes for Deontay Johnson is extremely wide tonight. He could go for under 5 fantasy points. He could continue to be benched because of the dropping, and James Washington, who Big Ben has publicly stated he trusts more than any other receiver on the field for the Steelers, he could end up taking some of Deontay's role away. But Deontay Johnson also, to me, is the most talented receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the higher end of range of outcomes for Deontay Johnson is higher than any other player on the Steelers offense. But I do think that Juju is going to outscore him tonight. Juju has been the reliable piece of the offense for Big Ben all season. He's 9th in receptions in the NFL. He has played the most slot snaps in the NFL this season. By the way, number 2 is Tyler Boyd, who we'll also get to see out tonight. I do think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to go over 12 fantasy points tonight. Sam, he's starting Benny Snell, and I have Tyler Boyd. I'm up by 2. Who you got? I would go Benny Snell over Tyler Boyd. Guys, the Steelers are 14-point favorites. I think they're going to win by even more than that. That's going to bode very well for Benny Snell. He's going to score at least 1 touchdown tonight. So, yeah, I think you got to fit him into your DFS lineup if you're making one. He's probably a guy you'll want to get into your lineup, and I'm going to try to finagle my lineup around a little bit now to fit in Benny Snell, because I just think you're at such a disadvantage if you don't have Benny Snell at his price in DraftKings and FanDuel tonight. So I'm going to be taking out, let's see, he costs $9,300 on DraftKings tonight. Not so bad. We're going to be taking out Ben Roethlisberger. No, I got to leave Big Ben in. I'm going to be taking out Deontay Johnson. I'm going to put in Benny Snell and Ben Roethlisberger, which is going to allow me to upgrade my second Bengals player in this lineup. I have Deontay, Ebron, and Pittsburgh Steelers D. I need 49. Yeah, I do think you're going to win that one. I think Pittsburgh defense is going to bail so many fantasy lineups out tonight. Guys, if you're playing DFS tonight on DraftKings or FanDuel, you got to go put in Benny Snell and the Pittsburgh's defense into your lineup. And let's hit that like button. If you're watching live on YouTube, let's get to 50 likes. I have to play one person from the Bengals on FanDuel. Who should I be? I think T. Higgins. T. Higgins has had over 5 targets in every single game that he's played this season. One of the few players in the NFL that you can say that about. He's one of the safest and most reliable fantasy players. Can I trust Bernard next week? No, you can't. Do you think Calvin Ridley or Allen Robinson will be better next week? I'd lean towards Calvin Ridley. He's been an absolute beast for you. Gio is going to be the best Bengals player tonight because Finley won't throw over 20-yard passes. Yeah, Giovanni Bernard could end up being the best Bengals player out there, but Travion Williams, I think there's a lot of reason for the Cincinnati Bengals to see what they have with Travion Williams. So I'm not going to be surprised if Travion Williams actually gets more touches than Giovanni Bernard. Sam, to make the championship, does Ebron get 11.7? Please let me know. I don't think that's going to happen, Tommy. I don't think Ebron's going to do very well tonight, but I will be rooting for you, and I'm hoping the best. I'm up 21 PPR points. What are the chances I lose? He has Deontay Johnson. It's going to be close, man. I think Deontay Johnson has a very wide range of outcomes. I think Deontay Johnson is either going to have a huge bounce-back performance or continue his steady decline due to the drop issues that he's had. Herbert or Wilson next week. I would lean towards Herbert over Wilson. Sam, you got me to the fantasy ship my first year playing. That is what I am talking about, man. You benched Hurts and Ahmed and lost by 12. Yeah, you were never going to start Ahmed. All right, Eric, you love the new logo. I appreciate it, man. Can I trust Kenyon next week? I do think you can trust Kenyon Drake, but Chase Edmonds was healthier than we expected this week, so he is eating more and more into that receiving work for Kenyon Drake, so it lowers the ceiling for Drake. Sam, next week, should I consider starting Hurts over Kyler with D-Hop on my roster? No, you can't bench Kyler Murray. I'm up 20 and up against Claypool. Do I win? Yeah, you're probably going to win that one. Sam, you're scared. I would be very scared if you are you relying on Eric Ebron tonight. You should be worried. And if you are up against and rooting against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense tonight, you're probably not going to have a very good night. They're up against Ryan Finley, who has under a 55% completion percentage in his 6 games that he's appeared in over the last 2 years. He's thrown twice as many interceptions as touchdowns in his games over the last 2 years. You need 8 points from the Steelers D. Yeah, I do think the Steelers defense is going to bail a lot of people out tonight. I think the Steelers defense is getting minimum 10 points. Ayuk is an extremely safe start, guys. He's gotten over 70 yards for 5 consecutive games now. So you can really trust Brandon Ayuk. He's been one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL. Should I start Hurts or Jalen next week? You can't bench Jalen Hurts at this point. I think you got to trust him. Keenan Allen cost me my game when he said, play me before the game to the camera. Yeah, that was brutal. He says, play me. He goes out there, and it looks like absolutely nothing. Who do I bet on for first TD? Zach, first TD bets are extremely, extremely unprofitable. But if you're betting on a first TD, I think you either got to go with Benny Snell or Pittsburgh's defense. That's probably going to be who scores the first touchdown. I like Juju as well. Sam, I went Steelers as captain, then Big Ben, Juju, Washington, Snell, and T. Higgins. Yeah, I like it. I think that's a pretty good lineup, man. Matt, I think that Snell is going to return great value, but the Steelers defense stacked with Benny Snell with the Steelers in the captain slot, I think is a high enough upside and a low enough owned lineup. Like how many, realistically, what percentage of people are going to have the Steelers defense in their captain slot? Probably under 15%. So that puts us in a great spot if the Steelers defense can score a touchdown, which I think they could definitely do against Ryan Finley. I won the semifinal. Tyreek 10. That's what I'm talking about, man. Time to win the championship. Never celebrate too soon. What's the Cowboys running back situation? Well, here's the situation. They've really put themselves into a corner because they paid Ezekiel Elliott way too much money. Their Ezekiel Elliott contract expires in like 2027 or something ridiculous like that. A lot of guaranteed money, but he has shown no more burst. He has looked like he has had less burst than Tony Pollard over the last month, really. And I see a lot of people. I posted Tony Pollard greater than Ezekiel Elliott in one of my week reaction videos on TikTok, and I got a lot of pushback on that. But if you've been watching over the last month, Tony Pollard has looked significantly better than Ezekiel Elliott. I go back and watch every single game. And if you go back and watch the games, watch Tony Pollard and watch Ezekiel Elliott. They're two completely different players. One of them is just trotting around, and one of them shows legit burst, and that's Tony Pollard. And I think that a lot of that can be attributed to this calf injury for Zeke. Who knows when that really started? But at the current moment, Tony Pollard looks a lot better than Zeke. Snell over 13.5 rushing attempts. Yeah, he's going to see more than 13.5 rushing attempts. Is that the actual line? Let's see. Carries. I'm not even seeing him on my book right now. So, yeah, I take him over 13.5. Sam, I'm calling it Ebron, 50 yards, 3 catches, and a TD. Good luck with that. Austin Eckler or Josh Jacobs for the championship. I would lean towards Eckler if it is a PPR league. Drop Tony Pollard right before the game. That was a huge mistake. And if you were listening to our live stream on Sunday, I would have told you to start Tony Pollard, and everyone that did that definitely benefited. Should I start McKissick over McLaren next week? No, I wouldn't do that. I'm going to need your help next week on to the championship. That's what I'm talking about, Nick. You got to tune into our Sunday stream so I can help you out. I do hope Antonio Gibson is coming back next week, but this is not confirmed. Opinion on Mike Davis and Ryan Tannehill for next 2 weeks going into semis in a 20-man league. Very impressive. That must have been very, very difficult. Ryan Tannehill's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. He is arguably, depending on the metrics you're using, been more efficient than Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers this season. You got to be trusting him in fantasy. Every time he throws the ball, something good happens. And in Mike Davis, if Christian McCaffrey is out again, you just got to trust him based on volume alone. I like Pollard more than Gibson if Gibson is back. Can Steelers D get me 15 points tonight? Yes, they can. I think the Steelers defense is going to do fantastic tonight up against a quarterback who has twice as many interceptions as touchdowns over the last 2 years, and they're 14-point favorites. I do think you can trust all of the Pittsburgh Steelers team to do very well tonight. Do you think Gaskin is reliable next week with Ahmed playing? No, I don't. I think there's going to be a pretty even split there. Antonio or Higgins next week? I would lean towards Antonio Brown, who finally found the end zone for the first time this season. Should I start Jefferson or Ayuk next week? You got to start both of them. Find a spot for both those rookies. Which rookie wide receiver, Claypool or Higgins? I would go towards Claypool, but Higgins has actually been a lot more consistent than Claypool this year. There isn't a single game where T. Higgins has less than 5 targets. There's very few players you can say that about in the NFL. So T. Higgins has the argument to be a more consistent and reliable fantasy option than Chase Claypool. But Claypool, guys, he has not scored a touchdown in 3 straight weeks yet he still has a top 5 touchdown percentage in the NFL. That's how insane of a streak he was on. He scored 10 touchdowns on pretty limited targets. One of the highest touchdown rates we have seen from a rookie in the history of rookies. He's up there. He's rivaling Mecole Hardman, who led the NFL in touchdown rate last year, by the way, as a rookie. Also a pretty rare thing to happen. I do think that Chase Claypool is going to get back on the board tonight with a touchdown, though. Kyler or Tannehill? You can't bench Kyler, guys. He's looked too good. He's absolutely back and healthy. Locks here for free. Master Locks has got your locks for free there. Zeke or Pollard going forward? I think it's Pollard, Jake. Pollard has showed more burst. I bet that is going to revert back to normal, where Zeke is going to be back to normal next season. But for the rest of this season with the calf injury, you can't trust him. Who will score more, Deontay or Juju? I like Juju tonight. Sam, I have Eckler, Jacobs, and Chubb. Should I pick up Pollard? Yes, you should definitely pick up Pollard. And you gotta be liking the usage from Pollard, guys. He saw almost 90% of the workload for that backfield and some pretty good target share as well. So you gotta like Pollard. You win championship of any of your leagues. It depends how good Big Ben does tonight, but I'm heading towards the semifinals in one of my other high stakes leagues next week. So it's a long season. I'm not going to celebrate too soon. And I'm in 8 fantasy leagues. 6 of them are high stakes fantasy leagues. And if I win the championship in just one of those high stakes leagues, I will pay really for like the next 3 years of fantasy for me. Is Ito Smith worth picking up? I do think he's worth picking up, guys. Todd Gurley is not the Todd Gurley we once knew, and Ito Smith is the one benefiting from that. Drop 200 and I'm in the ship. That's what I'm talking about, man. That is what I'm talking about. Good luck. Can I trust Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf? Yes. Wait, there is loser brackets. Yeah, but nobody cares about the loser brackets because you just said it, loser brackets. I don't even look at those when I'm in those. I took your word on starting Amari Cooper. Yeah, Amari Cooper and Cam Akers, 2 of the biggest busts this week. Both of them the process was really there for both those guys. I think Amari Cooper had his worst game of the entire season. I mean, he had been one of the most consistent wide receivers in fantasy football, which isn't something you'd expect from a guy like Amari Cooper, who's usually boom or bust, and he proved that he is still boom or bust. He only had 5 freaking yards. Johnson or Claypool tonight? I would go towards Deontay Johnson over Claypool. Juju or Claypool, you need 18. I'd go towards Juju. I think Juju is going to have a great game. Sam, how are you doing in your 6 leagues? I'm alive in 2 of them. One of them will be decided tonight. The other one, I'm moving on to the semifinals next week. The other leagues, I mean, it was a really hard fantasy season, probably the hardest in recent memory. So if you didn't do great in fantasy this year, you got to give yourself a pass this year with how brutal. Really, the first 5 picks of fantasy drafts were busts. Definitely the first 4. Christian McCaffrey was a bust in fantasy. Ezekiel Elliott, huge, big-time bust this season in fantasy. Saquon Barkley obviously got injured. And Michael Thomas he only had 2 games over 100 yards. Both those games came against the Atlanta Falcons. The first 4 picks were all busts. So if you had picked in the first 4 picks, I mean, the process with those picks was right. So you probably got screwed if you picked in the first 4 picks. Which rookie wide receiver, Claypool or Higgins? I like Claypool, but Higgins has been the more reliable asset. Allaire out. Thoughts on Le'Veon Bell? Yeah, Le'Veon Bell has to be added in every single fantasy league. He's going to end up winning people fantasy championships in that offense. You got to love the upside for Le'Veon Bell. Samuels or AJ Green? I would probably lean towards AJ Green over Samuels. I think that there's too many running backs for the Steelers to lean on. Benny Snell's probably going to lead that backfield in touches. How do you think Kittle will do? Yeah, I'm super excited to see Kittle back on a football field, but there's very little reason for them to rush him back out with them being eliminated from the playoffs. How did Josh Jacobs make the Pro Bowl and James Robinson didn't? Yeah. James Robinson absolutely should be in the Pro Bowl. He just had the best undrafted rookie season at the running back position of all time. I would go Noah Fant over Zach Ertz 100%. Guys, the workload that Noah Fant saw makes him a top 5 tight end in fantasy football. I mean, if you were watching that game and you go back and watch it, Noah Fant was very clearly the top target in that offense. You have Eckler, Jacobs, and Chubb. Should I pick up Pollard? Yeah, no matter who you have, go pick up Tony Pollard. 31 from Pittsburgh defense. Ryan, I wouldn't rule it out, but it's extremely unlikely. I do think that the Pittsburgh defense has a lot of upside tonight, though, against a player, Ryan Finley, who has twice as many interceptions as he does passing touchdowns over the last couple of years. What's the prop for tonight? Tate, there's no free player prop pick tonight, but you can get access to the prop completely free if you start your free trial in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. Feelings on Kittle. I don't think Kittle is going to play because there's very little reason for the 49ers to rush Kittle back. But I do think if he does play, he's a top 2 tight end option only behind Travis Kelce. As long as James Robinson plays, should I play James? I don't think Robinson's playing. I think he's going to be done for the season, unfortunately, though he still managed to have the best undrafted rookie running back season of all time in only 14 games. So you can don't count on James Robinson, and that makes his backups pretty intriguing ads if you need a running back. Is Zeke or McCaffrey playing next week? McCaffrey almost he seems like he wants to play. Again, I don't understand these players rushing back, putting their careers on the line when their teams are eliminated from the playoffs, but I think Zeke and McCaffrey could both play next week. Should I start Hurts or Allen next week? I don't think you can bench Josh Allen with how big of a tear he's been on. Mark Andrews or Logan Thomas? Connor, definitely Mark Andrews. And Logan Thomas had an absolute – you're subscribed to the app and you didn't see it. Oh, Tate, I got you, man. Thanks for being a subscriber. I appreciate that, Tate. And yeah, Mark Andrews still has to be started over Logan Thomas. Even though Logan Thomas, 13 catches, over 100 yards. What a beast. But I think you still got to go with Mark Andrews. Hey, Sam, love the streams. Thanks, man. Pick 2, Metcalf, A.J. Brown, and DeAndre Swift. I would go with A.J. Brown and DeAndre Swift with Metcalf up against likely Jalen Ramsey for most of that game. I think you can go. Guys, we called it DeAndre Swift ceiling, 2 touchdowns. The Lions have had 4 straight games with 2+ rushing touchdowns. No other team in the NFL has done that this season. A stretch of 4 games with at least 2 rushing touchdowns. DeAndre Swift is a pretty good ceiling in that offense. I would probably trust him over Metcalf. Tommy Johnson, there's no free prop tonight, but if you do want a free player prop, you can go into the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store, start your 3-day free trial, and then you will get a completely free player prop to go bet on, and then to probably pay for your premium subscription in the WalterPicks app. Should I start next week? Koo or Sly? You can never bet against Younghoe Koo yet, Devin. Kamara or Montgomery? With Drew Brees back and Michael Thomas out, there is very few wide running backs with a higher ceiling than Alvin Kamara, guys. He's averaging more receiving yards per game than most of the top wide receivers. Will Sanders and Akers be reliable for next week? No, probably not Miles Sanders, but I do think Akers is still reliable. I would still go Akers over Miles Sanders, but you got to take my Miles Sanders takes with a grain of salt because I've been wrong about Miles Sanders almost every single week. Who's the best 2 out of Carson, Mostert, and Zeke? I need a lot of help, man. I would lean towards Mostert and Carson. I don't think you can trust Zeke at all at this point. I can't play Snell tonight, but should I pick him up for the rest of the playoffs? Yes, you should pick up Benny Snell. You got to go pick up Benny Snell if he's available, guys. He could be the #1 running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the next few weeks. Keenan, Hunt, Julio, Akers next week. I would probably lean towards Akers and Julio, depending on what the health status is for Julio, though. You got a lot of injured players. It's impressive you made it this far. Hey, Sam, I purchased a membership yesterday for the Prop Picks and won $35. Napoleon, that's what I'm talking about, man. Good stuff. And hopefully tonight you can make more money already in your first week as a premium subscriber for the WalterPicks app than you did spend on the app. So I'm glad that worked out for you, Napoleon. And it has for most of our premium subscribers in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. They've already made more money than the premium subscription cost. I honestly think we're priced way too low. Akers had a 20-yard TD run that called back. Yeah, I saw that. It was very, very frustrating. Johnson or Claypool tonight? I like Deontay Johnson more than Claypool. Herbert, Baker, or Hurst? I would go Hurst over Herbert and Baker next week, guys. The rushing upside is just too big to ignore. And if you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit that like button. Let's get to 70 likes. Hit that like button. Helps us out a ton. If you're watching live on TikTok and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, you got to go do that. You got to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting closer and closer to kickoff on Monday Night Football. I can feel the tension behind the screen right now for everyone who has a lot riding in their fantasy football leagues on this game. I made the championship for my league thanks to you, Lucas. That's what I'm talking about, man. Next week, Evans or Ayuk. Lucas, you're going to want to play both those guys, but there has been no more consistent wide receiver than Ayuk, Lucas. I think Ayuk is one of the most reliable wide receivers in all of football right now. So if you're going for the floor, it's absolutely Ayuk. If you're going for the ceiling, though, you can argue Evans has a higher ceiling. And I'll have a better opinion for you on the streams leading up to the games this week after I finish the projections tomorrow morning. Need less than 24 from Juju and Boyd tonight. I don't think that's going to happen for you, but we will see. Juju Smith-Schuster has ran the most routes in the slot in the NFL. Number 2 is Tyler Boyd, and running routes in the slot is more valuable than any other spot in the field. A target in the slot is about 1.5 times as valuable as any other target in PPR leagues because there's such a high probability of receptions. Juju is 9th in receptions in the NFL. Tyler Boyd is top 20 in receptions and receiving yards in the NFL, though I think Ryan Finley could really, really struggle tonight. Need Pittsburgh defense to score 16 to send me through. Percentage chance they hit that. AJ, I like your odds. I think that the Steelers defense has about a 30% chance to go over 15 fantasy points tonight. They're up against Ryan Finley, who has twice as many interceptions as touchdowns over his last 6 appearances over the last 2 years. I think the Steelers, all they need is 1 touchdown, and they're going to go over 16 fantasy points for you. So you're rooting for a touchdown along with me because I'm playing the Steelers defense in my captain slot on DraftKings tonight. Hilton next week. Yeah, T.Y. Hilton had one of his first bad games against the Houston Texans that he has had over the last 3 years. A pretty disappointing performance with Zach Pascal taking all of his work away. Jonathan Taylor or Mike Evans? Oh, I don't think you could bench Jonathan Taylor, Lucas. I would go him over Evans as well. What 2 running backs do I start next week? Chubb, Carson, Akers, Pollard, Bell. We got to wait and see about the Zeke news. Obviously, you can't bench Nick Chubb, and I would probably lean towards Cam Akers again. Claypool under 22.8 in a non-PPR league. Yeah, Johnny Katz, you're totally fine, man. You can sleep easy tonight. You don't even need to watch the game. Is there any update with Mostert and Wilson? And would there be a point in picking up McKinnon again? No, you shouldn't pick up McKinnon. I haven't seen any updates with Mostert and Wilson yet, though. You the best, Sam. I'm going to win 150. That's what I'm talking about, Lucas. Win at 150 and then go become a premium subscriber on the WalterPicks app to help me out. QT or Higgins or Snell next week? I'd probably lean towards Snell, depending. We'll see a lot about how he's used tonight, though. So I defer that question until later this week. Herbert versus Broncos or Mayfield versus Jets? I would probably lean towards Mayfield versus the Jets. Big Ben under 2.5 passing touchdowns. Yeah, probably he's going to go under 2.5 passing touchdowns, but I wouldn't be touching that one because Big Ben has thrown the most passing attempts in the NFL. He threw for 4 touchdowns last time he played the Bengals. I won in the semifinals. Tyreek 10, that's what I'm talking about. You can never bench Aaron Rodgers, guys, with how good he's been playing. And if you're watching live on YouTube right now, guys, hit that like button. It takes you 2 seconds, helps me out more than you probably realize. And if you're watching live on TikTok and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, not sure what you're waiting for, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Should I start Gaskin or Rashad Higgins at flex since Gaskin might share carries? Yeah, you can't trust Gaskin next week. I would go Rashad Higgins. Thoughts on Finley over 1.5 INTs? It's over 1.5. Is that really the line? That's a pretty realistic line. I bet he goes over 1.5 interceptions. He's definitely throwing at least 1. And that's going to be 1 chance for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least 1 chance to score a touchdown tonight. Thoughts on Wilson next week versus the Rams? Yeah, I don't think you can trust Russell Wilson in fantasy football. He's shown to have an extremely low floor. They're limiting how deep he's throwing the ball down the field. They're really limiting his upside. That's Pete Carroll limiting Russell Wilson's upside, as he really has done a lot over the last 3 years. So in the first half of the season, Russell Wilson had some of the most upside in the NFL. Now it's really not there, so I wouldn't be trusting him. Kiki or Pollard next week. If Zeke is out again, it's got to be Pollard. A.J. Brown or Juju or Julio. I would go A.J. Brown over Julio with the injury Julio's dealing with. I would be shocked, honestly, if they rush Julio back as they're out of the playoffs. Russ versus Rams or Tannehill versus Packers. I would go Tannehill versus the Packers over Russ versus the Rams. Up 14.3, and he has just Deontay left. Am I safe? Chad, if it's a PPR league, you're definitely not safe. And if you're watching live on YouTube, hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 70 likes. Who's going to be our 70th like on this YouTube stream? Really do appreciate everyone that's tuned in right now. I'm hoping our Monday night goes well and we all advance to the fantasy football finals. Hurts or Brady? I would lean towards Jalen Hurts over Tom Brady. Thoughts on Jonathan Taylor? He's been on an absolute tear. He's been a fantasy football league winner over the last 3 weeks. Herbert or Hurts? I think you got to go Hurts over Herbert. And Keenan Allen's going to be tough to trust too, dealing with that injury tape. But Jalen Hurts gives such a high floor and such a high ceiling with the amount that he's rushing. 60 plus and 1 TD is more realistic. Yeah, I think that is pretty realistic for Claypool than 100 plus yards and 2 TDs. I don't think he's going to get 100 plus and at least 2 TDs. You going to do fantasy basketball coverage as well? Yes, man. Ali, I'm looking forward to it. We are going to be talking a lot about fantasy basketball, specifically looking at the player prop bets and at the DFS. I've been building an artificially intelligent algorithm for basketball over the last couple of years, trying to use that same process as football. I will not release it until it is officially dominating what's out there right now. That's my philosophy. We're not going to release anything to our premium subscribers till we're very confident in it. But I am hopeful that we're going to be releasing that in the next few weeks because I have spent a lot of time over the last couple of years building out that basketball model. Cam Akers sold. Yeah, Cam Akers did not do very well. I do think the process with Cam Akers was correct, though, and I think he's going to bounce back next week. Hurts or Lamar, you can't bench Lamar Jackson. Would you ever consider benching Josh Allen against the Pats? No. The Pats defense is not what you think the Pats defense is. They are dealing with a tremendous amount of injuries. They are a bottom 10 defense in the NFL right now. Josh Allen's going to toast them next week. Love your work, Sam. Thanks, Nick. I'm open to being a beta user for basketball fantasy. Nick, thanks for letting me know. You can try to DM us on Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram, Nick, and I can try to set you up with that. You like Cole Beasley next week versus the Pats? Yeah, I do like Cole Beasley and really the whole Buffalo Bills offense. The Pats defense is an absolute joke. They couldn't stop no-name wide receivers for the Dolphins this week. I mean, Lynn Bowden was the top receiver for the Dolphins, and they still got toasted. I'm going to be honest. You are the best football analyst on YouTube that I watch. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I try to use math and artificial intelligence to give you guys the best insights I possibly can. But really, the best information you can get about fantasy football is in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store because that's where the artificial intelligence algorithm lives. My favorite football team is the New England Patriots. It's been an absolutely brutal season, but they've won enough in my lifetime that I feel like I can't complain. And they probably won enough that I'm okay for the rest of my life, but I don't think that the Pats are going to be very good for quite a long time. And I posted a video saying that Tom Brady was more valuable than Bill Belichick on TikTok. I got a ton of pushback from Patriots fans as expected on that one. And I was actually of the belief heading into this season that Bill Belichick was the more valuable asset over Tom Brady, but there's been a lot of evidence this season. I know that there's been a lot of opt-outs for the Pats and they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but Bill Belichick really has not done well at all this season. And he gets way too much credit. He even gets credit from Patriots fans when they do things bad. Patriots fans will spin it off as, oh, he was intentionally doing this bad for this reason. They're like, oh, we wanted a better draft pick. That's why we're doing that. And that's just nonsense. You're giving Bill Belichick way too much credit, even though he is the greatest coach of all time. I seriously think you're the smartest fantasy mind on the market. Thanks, man. You're doing amazing stuff and also being an algebra teacher. Lucas, I appreciate that, man. Tannehill or Brady? I would lean towards Tannehill. I like Tannehill a lot in the upcoming week. I'm up by 1. He has no one. If you're up by 1 and he has nobody, you got to bench the Steelers defense. There's just no reason for you to risk it. You bench the Steelers defense and you take the win. There's no reason to play the Steelers D. Even though I do think the Steelers defense is going to do very well, it's extremely unlikely for them to get under 1 point against Ryan Finley, but anything can happen. So bench the Steelers defense. Who do you think will win the NFC top seed? I think the NFC, I feel like the NFC was looking like the better division over the AFC, and all of a sudden, you can make an argument that the Titans are pretty scary, that the Ravens are pretty scary, the Bills are definitely looking scary. We're going to see the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 14-point favorites tonight. They're not a team you want to play in the playoffs either. And then you got the Chiefs, obviously. So the AFC, to me, is looking a little bit more scary than the NFC, but I think that the winners of the NFC are going to be the Green Bay Packers, who, to me, are the most intimidating team in the NFC. I think that the Rodgers is going to go to the Super Bowl. Good luck with that, Lucas. This is a big one. Pick 3, please. Keenan, Ayuk, Hopkins, Akers, Terry, Kupp. You got to start DeAndre Hopkins. You got to start Brandon Ayuk. And I think the third one there is Cam Akers, who's going to bounce back. He saw 90% of the workload. 90% of the workload for the Rams this past week. The workload was there. It was the situation and the game flow that was bad for Cam Akers. Where do you think Wentz will go? I hope he goes to the Patriots. Honestly, I think Wentz is still a good quarterback, and he was set up to fail in the Eagle system this year with a horrible offensive line. Guys, we're 1 like away from 70 likes on YouTube. Hit that like button. If you're watching it live on YouTube, really does help me out a ton. And if you're watching live on TikTok and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, not sure what you're waiting for, man. Zeke, Mostert, or Drake. I would probably say Mostert number 1, Drake number 2, and Zeke number 3. You can't trust Ezekiel Elliott at all anymore in fantasy football, guys. He's shown no burst. He's dealing with an injury. He's behind a bad offensive line. Pollard looks better than him. You can't trust Ezekiel Elliott, even if he's back next week. Though I do think they did the right thing resting him this week. How do you feel about Rashad Higgins? I think Rashad Higgins, guys, has shown to be one of the top targets for Baker Mayfield. And up until this week, he had seen like 3 straight games with at least 7 targets. So I do like Higgins a decent amount. Tannehill or Herbert or Hurts? I think Jalen Hurts, guys. There's very few quarterbacks I'm going to be recommending over Jalen Hurts in this upcoming week. His rushing upside gives him such a high floor and such a high ceiling in fantasy football that he's going to be tough to bench. Really, it's going to just be Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, and Josh Allen that you have to play, and Kyler Murray. Those four you got to play, and Patrick Mahomes, obviously. So Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray, those are the guys you have to play over Jalen Hurts. After that, I think you can make the argument for Jalen Hurts that you got to be starting him. Kittle playing week 16, Brett, I hope so, but I don't really see the reason for them to force Kittle back with them being out of the playoffs, so I'm not really sure. But hit that like button. If you're watching live on YouTube, it helps us out. Let's get to 75 likes on this stream. How do you feel about Raheem Mostert? I think Raheem Mostert is a very, very high upside running back with his speed, one of the fastest players in the NFL. So I am a fan of Raheem Mostert. He is splitting work, though, with Jeff Wilson, and he lost some of those goal line touches this week as well. Do I start McLaren or McKissick? I would definitely go McLaren. What do you think about Claypool over 41.5 yards? That was not the over-under I was seeing. I don't mind it. I think that Big Ben and that whole offense can do very well. So over 41.5 seems pretty fair to me. The prop that I'm seeing for Claypool is 47. So, yeah, if you're getting 41.5, that's pretty good. I would probably take 41.5. Sanders or Pollard next week? I lean towards Pollard if Zeke is out again. Who do you think wins the NFC East? I think that the best bet to win the NFC East is the Washington football team still. It'll be very interesting to see who ends up winning that division. Right now in the NFC, we can see in the NFC, we see that the Washington football team is in hold of first place. I don't think that the Cowboys or the Giants are going to be able to catch them. I think that the Washington team is just, they have a good enough defense to win that division. And it's going to be very annoying when they end up winning a playoff game because no one in that division deserves to go to the playoffs. Pick 2, Antonio Brown, Godwin, Drake, and Corey Davis. I'd probably go with Corey Davis and Antonio Brown. Now, probably Corey Davis and Chris Godwin, even though Antonio Brown just had a breakout game. Guys, hit that like button if you're watching live on YouTube. We're almost an hour into the stream. We got a few minutes left on the stream. And if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I always end my live streams with like 5 minutes just on YouTube, answering every single question I can possibly get to on the YouTube stream. The reason I do that, the YouTube chat is a lot less spammy than the TikTok chat. So it's very nice to be able to ask questions over on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, you got to go subscribe. I'm going to be spending the next 5 minutes over on YouTube answering every single question I can possibly answer. So definitely come join us on the YouTube stream. That's my time on TikTok, guys. Have a great Monday night. I'm rooting for all of your fantasy teams, and I will be live the hour leading up to football and the 3 hours leading up to football on Sunday. You got to come join those streams. Even if you're out of the fantasy playoffs, I'll give you some betting advice, some DFS advice, and definitely we'll be talking a lot about fantasy football. Have a great night, everyone. All right, guys, we are live on just YouTube. Hit that like button. Let's get to 100 likes before the end of the stream. I would love that. Hit that like button if you're just joining us. Hit that like button. We're trying to get to 100 likes before the end of the stream. I would really, really love to see that. Do you know how long CEH is out for? It looked bad, but apparently he's out for just at least the next 2 games. But I'd be surprised to see him out there in the rest of the regular season based just on how it looked. What are your DFS picks tonight? I think you got to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense tonight and Benny Snell. You got to start there. I'm playing Pittsburgh defense in my captain slot tonight. I think their upside is tremendous up against Ryan Finley, who has twice as many interceptions as touchdowns over his last 6 appearances. Ebron or Thomas next week? I would go Thomas. Logan Thomas has got to be a top 5 tight end for everyone next week. Guys, hit that like button. Let's get to 80 likes. We're almost there. Pick 3 for next week. DK, Anderson, Davis, Deontay, and Landry. I'd probably lean towards. We'll see how Deontay Johnson looks tonight. There's a chance Deontay Johnson's snaps continue to decline, but I'd probably go DK and Deontay Johnson and probably Jarvis Landry as well. It's close. What's your DraftKings lineup tonight? Yeah, on DraftKings, I went with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense at the captain slot. I went with Big Ben and Benny Snell. I went with Juju and James Washington to stack with Big Ben. And then the only player I went on the Bengals side of the ball was Travion Williams. I think you could also go with T. Higgins in that spot. That is not a bad option either. T. Higgins has had over 5 targets in every single game that he's played this season. There's very few receivers you can say that about. Saints, Rams, or Bucks D next week. I would probably lean towards the Bucks defense. Snell or Higgins tonight. I like Snell more than Higgins. Dobbins or Melvin Gordon next week. Melvin Gordon's been a great asset in fantasy over the last few weeks. I would probably still lean Dobbins, though. And guys, we're almost at 100 likes on this YouTube stream. Hit that like button. I'm trying to get to as many questions as I possibly can over the next few minutes before I log off for the night. I'd love to get to 100 likes, so it takes you 2 seconds. Helps me out way more than you probably realize, too. Rams or Dolphins D next week. I would lean towards the Dolphins. Thomas or Hawkinson. I would go Thomas. Adam Thielen, Jefferson, Robinson, or Diggs. This is for the semis. I would go Jefferson. I would go Adam Thielen and probably Diggs as well. You can't be benching Diggs and you can't be benching Jefferson. The decision to me is between Robinson and Thielen. Start, bench, cut Baker, Watson, Kyler. I would start Kyler. I would bench Watson, and I would start Kyler. I would bench Baker, and I would cut Watson. Lamar or Hurts this week. You can't bench Lamar Jackson. Jacobs, Rojo, Pollard, Julio at the flex for the final week of the championship. It depends on the injury status for Julio Jones, but I would probably lean towards Pollard and Jacobs. Is A.J. Brown a must start? Yes, he is. DJ Moore next week. Yeah, Drew, fire up DJ Moore with confidence yet again. Will Boyd and Ebron hold a lead of 6 against Ben? Probably not. Let's get 100. Yeah, guys, hit that like button. We're 15 likes away from 100 likes. Who's going to be that 100th like on this YouTube stream? Really do appreciate it. Love the stream, Sam. Thanks for getting me into the playoffs. I got you, man. Juju or Boyd? I like Juju a lot more than Boyd tonight. By the way, Juju, number 1 in slot snaps per game this season. Number 2 is Tyler Boyd. Sanders or Mostert? I would lean towards Sanders. Juju or Deontay? I like Juju a little bit more than Deontay tonight. Thoughts on Higgins? Higgins has been one of the most consistent wide receivers in the NFL, at least 5 targets in almost every single game this season. Steelers defense versus the Colts or Rams defense versus the Seahawks? I would probably lean towards the Steelers defense versus the Colts. Watson has top 5 passing yards with no supporting cast. Yeah, Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You cannot convince me otherwise. Tyler Lockett, McKissick, or Zeke at flex? I would probably go with Tyler Lockett at the flex. Thanks, Sam. We love you. Got you, man. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 90 likes. We're 4 likes away. We're very close. I'm behind 3.5 of the Steelers D. He is Ebron, half PPR. Cody, I like your odds, man. I think the Steelers defense is going to do fantastic tonight, and I won't be surprised if they score a touchdown. Hit that like button, guys. We're 4 likes away from 90 likes. Juju or Boyd? I would go Juju over Boyd. Ayuk or Thielen? I would go Ayuk over Thielen, guys. Ayuk has gone over 70 yards in 5 consecutive games. One of the most consistent wide receivers in the NFL. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to cover 14 points tonight. If you're betting any money on this game, it's got to be on the Steelers side of the ball. Benny Snell probably going to do very well. I think Juju's also going to do very well tonight. I'd be going with Curtis Samuel over Devontae Parker with the injury Parker's dealing with. Bears defense or Ravens defense? I'd probably go with the Ravens defense if Daniel Jones is out again. Otherwise, I'd go with the Bears. Would like to see you do a 2021 draft class scenario. Yeah, Brett, we're going to be doing a lot of content about the NFL draft as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. Jefferson, Thielen, or A.J. Brown? I would go with Jefferson and A.J. Brown there, Jose. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button if you haven't. Let's see if we can get to 90 likes. I hope everyone has a fantastic Monday night, and I will be live multiple times this week. The hour before football starts, except for on Christmas, I will be live, and I'll also be live my normal 3 to 4 hours before football on Sunday to help us all with our sports, our football betting, our player props, our DraftKings and FanDuel lineups, and get those fantasy football championships as well. I do think that Christian McCaffrey is going to play this week, even though I don't really understand why they would bring him back. I like Lockett's upside more than McKissick, and I do think also Antonio Gibson is going to be back. Ronald Jones, assuming he plays, or Mike Davis or Akers? I would go Akers. I know Akers has been a big-time disappointment, but I'd still like him more than Mike Davis and Ronald Jones. Guys, have a fantastic Monday night. I will see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Really do appreciate it, and definitely make sure you've subscribed if you haven't subscribed yet. Have a great Monday night.